welcome to Baking and Books. My name is Lexi and I'm an amateur baker who loves to read. So each week I post videos of myself attempting to bake something new while also talking about a book that I have recently read or just really love. Today we are going to be making sugar cookies because I realized that I've never made sugar cookies, or at least not on my channel. I'm sure I've made them at some point in my life, but I can't really remember and I don't know if it went well or not. So today we're going to make those and I'm going to try to make them into the shape of pumpkins and see if we can't decorate them super cute. I don't have royal icing, so we're not talking like major decoration, just a little bit of decoration. And we're going to be talking about the Da Vinci Code. Technically this is a follow-up to Angels and Demons by Dan Brown, but if you haven't read that or you haven't seen my first video on that, it's probably okay. This is one of those series where the main character stays the same, but you don't necessarily have to read each book in order. I like to because that's just me, but you don't necessarily have to. However, if you want to do that, you can do Angels and Demons first, and I'll try to remember to link that video below. But otherwise, we're going to get into this one today, which was pretty good, so I'm excited to get started with you guys. All right, fingers crossed all goes well, and let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a little bit of a synopsis. Basically, Robert Langdon is our main character, and we are back with him, and he has gotten a call to go out to the Louvre in Paris because their curator, or like one of their curators, was killed. And because he's a symbologist, there's some stuff at the crime scene that the French police think he can help with. However, when he gets there, he meets Sophie, who is from the cryptology department of the French police. And she quickly gets Langdon on his own and convinces him that the reason he's there is not to help, but because the chief inspector thinks that he is a suspect. So Sophie helps him escape because she does not believe that he is a suspect in this murder, and that this murder is pointing towards something quite a bit deeper and darker, including like a whole cult conspiracy. I really don't want to say much else just because I feel like the deeper you go in the synopsis, the easier it is to give stuff away. But basically everything kind of revolves around this very like intricate cult. That's not like a cult like what we think. Well, there's kind of two cults. I don't know. It's a lot. It's not that difficult to follow. I'm making it a lot more difficult than it seems like. So basically, Langdon teams up with Sophie to clear his own name and figure out what happened to this murdered man. It's really fun. I do think Angels and Demons is better, but I really enjoyed this. I thought it was a really fun, like, challenging book. And I guess I mean challenging in a lot of the views that it presents are challenging to different beliefs that like I personally hold or that other people hold. And so I just think that's really interesting to kind of read a different perspective on it, even if it is fiction. I just find it to be fun. And I love the idea of conspiracy. Like in the real world, I'm not much of a believer in conspiracy theories, but I find that these books hold so much truth that the conspiracies involved are just so much more fun to talk about and to read about. So from here on out, I'm going to continue with my baking and decorating phase and talk a little bit deeper into the books. If you haven't read this book or seen the movie and you don't want things spoiled for you, then go ahead and skip forward until it says no more spoilers and you can just see how the cookies turned out. But if you've already read this book, seen the movie, or you genuinely just don't care, then stay with me. We're going to dive deeper into the book. Honestly, the first thing that I wrote down is something that's just so, it doesn't really matter at all, but it matters to me. Like this poor man is constantly awoken in the middle of the night. Like, I feel so bad for him that he can't just get, like, a decent night's sleep. Personally, too, I think that Silas is definitely one of the most cringy characters humanly possible. I just think that, like, his beliefs and the beliefs that his whole, like, religious sect hold, that you have to whip yourself and wear that belt thing, like, I don't know. I try not to judge people for their beliefs, but I'm really against that. I just feel like if you have to cause yourself physical pain as redemption for your sins, like, it sort of defeats the whole purpose of Christianity, because that's what Jesus did for us, so we wouldn't have to. So I'm not a huge fan of that. I think too, like, because look, I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts and I've seen a lot of documentaries, and one of the things that always annoys me is when the police or detectives or whoever's in charge of the case are just so dead set on one person. And that to me is exactly what's happening in this story, is that this chief believes that Langdon is the perpetrator, the murderer, and he just can't possibly see it any other way. And he's willing to, I mean, he erases part of the crime scene so that Langdon won't see it, so that he won't suspect that that's why he's really there. And he's just trying to, like, draw him out. But it just kind of happens that everything Robert says is, like, could help with the investigation if the chief wanted his help. But in reality, he's just trying to get him to confess at the same time. Like, I don't know, that's weird to me. I also, like, don't run from the police. You know, but this kind of thing kind of is difficult, I think, for me. Because I just believe, like, okay, innocent people don't run. You know, so, like, as soon as somebody makes a break for it, it's like, okay, well, you're kind of admitting your guilt. But then at the same time, when you have these kind of situations where the captain is so convinced that it is Robert and he won't hear anything else of it, then I mean, I can kind of understand. Like, I still don't really like it, but he's in a totally different country and he doesn't really have... I'm adding more vanilla. This is a side note, but I didn't have as much sugar as I thought I did. And so I wasn't able to add in the correct amount. It's not like super far off, but just a little bit. So I'm going to add in a little bit more vanilla and just wing it a little bit. Not really sure vanilla and sugar really make up for each other, but that's where we're at right now. But yeah, anyway, I understand why Robert and Sophie feel like he needs to run, but then it's also like, ugh, that's such a bad call, but then, I don't know. It's kind of understandable at some point. However, like, regardless of how you feel about people running, Sophie's idea of attaching his tracker to a bar of soap and launching it out the window is so super clever. Like, I didn't see that coming because I genuinely didn't know how they were going to get out of that predicament. And I feel like right away that introduced you to the fact that Sophie was really smart. I mean, yeah, she's a cryptologist, so you kind of assume she's smart. But she's, like, not just book smart. She's extremely, like, common sense smart as well. It kind of sucks, too, in this situation. No. That you can't get help from your embassy. Like, if I messed up in a different country, or they thought that I did, I mean, like, in this case, I just feel like you should be able to get a call from your embassy to be like, okay, well, yeah, this person messed up in a different country, but also they're an American citizen, so, like, do they have rights? But then also, too, is, like, is that how people get away with murder? Because, you know, they committed it in a different country, so it's kind of sucky that you can't get help from your embassy if you've been arrested in a different country, or at least not in, like, the general sense. I don't know, that's what this book made it seem like. But I guess, like, I can understand, too, because otherwise you would have people just fleeing to different countries just to get away with stuff. The one thing that I hate towards the beginning of this is I feel like whatever happened with Sophie's grandfather, they're just dragging it out. Like, they're just going on and only showing us, like, little snippets at a time. And I'm like, come on, like, I want more. Like, I want to know what's going on. I hate that. Like, I just want to know the whole story right now. Don't leave me hanging. Okay, dough is done. So, I'm supposed to put it into little balls. But, I kind of wanted to use the cookie cutter, except I don't have any more flour. I used it all for the cookies, and so I feel like if I put it on this surface and try to roll it out, it's going to be bad. But I'm going to try it anyway. Well, first let's, like, try it. Make sure it tastes okay. Yeah, it tastes fine. I feel like you can't really mess this kind of stuff up. Okay, it's a huge cookie cutter, so I don't know how many we're gonna get out of here. We're just kind of winging this a little bit, so if you see me doing something weird, just, I guess, mind your business, because I'm just trying to figure this out as I go. I do have to stop and admire Dan Brown and just, like, I just want to know where he gets his ideas from, you know? Like, I mean, I know that a lot of this is based in history or conspiracy or whatever, and so, like, I get that, but also, too, like, I just find it so fascinating that he's able to come up with these ideas and then execute the story in this way. Like, I just find that so fascinating, and I really applaud him for being able to do such a phenomenal job with this story. Honestly, I'm resisting the urge to just eat this cookie dough straight up. I love cookie dough. I think that Sophie and Robert definitely make some stupid decisions along the way, and, like, I get it, you know, I would probably do the same thing in their situation, but there's a couple times that I feel like they make just really dumb mistakes. Like, they don't really think that much about just walking into this bank. They're just like, yeah, the bank, you know, where this thing is hiding. We just gotta go. And I feel like, you know, it is, I mean, I know it's like a highly secure bank that's, like, honestly, completely outside my realm of recognition because I have never been to, no probably ever will be a bank like this one. But I still just feel like it's a, you know, it's a public place. Like, why would you not think that through a little bit more before just waltzing in there? And then on top of that, like, once they've stolen the car or like the transport vehicle, they don't think that it's gonna have a tracker on it. Sorry, I'm laughing because this is not going to work. Like, these are just gonna have to be little balls, and it's just gonna have to be what it's gonna have to be, because I don't know if it's just because I don't have flour on my surface or what, but like, you just can't get anything out of this. I cleaned off my surface because I have an idea. I'm thinking maybe I can make them into little pumpkin shapes on here already and just like clear out the extra dough around here, throw it back in. I mean, it's gonna be a lot longer process than just like throwing these on there, but I think it might get us our pumpkin shapes in the long run, so it might be worth it. Anyway, I just felt like, well, yeah, of course, like, this huge vehicle is gonna have a tracking device on it, and they don't even think about that. Like, it does not even cross their minds this giant armored vehicle is gonna have a tracking device in it, and that these people are already looking. I mean, they know people are already looking for them, and they're just sort of like winging it. I don't know, I just feel like that's so stupid. Also like how the manager just kind of flip-flops. Like, first and foremost, he's like, well, you know, that man was my friend, and if somebody murdered him, then I want to make sure that you guys have what you need to succeed in whatever he left you behind. And then all of a sudden, like, when he finds out that other people have died, now all of a sudden he doesn't believe them? Like, they're already wanted for murder, which I guess, you know, he's okay with because he doesn't believe Sophie would kill her own grandfather. But then he does suddenly believe that they would kill everybody else involved. Like, I don't know. To me, it just seems kind of weird that he suddenly flip-flopped. And quite frankly, I think he flip-flopped for his own sake. I don't think he... I don't know. I think he saw that the idea of helping fugitives was probably not a great one anymore. And he suddenly was like, you know what? I don't want to be involved in this. So I don't think he really believed one way or another. I think he was just trying to save his own skin. This had honestly better be worth it because it is a pain in the butt. Well, I can only do 4 because of the way I angled them, so let's just see if this works. Okay, and I'm going to keep trying and see if I can get more on this one. I do think, you know, when I was like reading through Angels and Demons, I didn't really understand the idea of what would make Christians so upset with this kind of a story. Just because, like I said, I had always pretty much believed, and these are spoilers, by the way, if you haven't read those stories and you want to, just really quick. I had always believed that science and God goes together. Like, I don't understand why that's such a big deal. But with this one, I could definitely understand this time why Christians would be mad. I don't personally think it's that big of a deal if Jesus did have a child, because he lived like an earthly man for such a long time. I think it could definitely be worse, but I can understand why people would be upset about the idea that he was just a prophet and not the Son of God, because that is sort of the whole foundation of the religion. So believing that Jesus is the Son of God and that he is our Savior is sort of our whole thing. So I could see why this one would probably make people more so upset. I could also understand why more old school Christians would find the idea of Mary Magdalene being such an important character so appalling, because a lot of more like old school Christians are all about, you know, men being the most important. So if somebody like Mary Magdalene was truly basically the right hand of Jesus and not a man, as we have so long believed, I can understand why that would make them mad. Obviously it doesn't make me mad because good for her. Good for her. But yeah, I mean, like, I can kind of understand a little bit more. I don't think that you should take fiction quite so seriously. I know that a lot of this is based in like historical fact as far as paintings and things like that, but I do think at some point you gotta say, okay, this is fiction, and like, you gotta trust. I mean, these are adult books, you know, they're not really meant for like the younger generations. So I mean, if you don't like it, don't read it. and also to recognize that it is a work of fiction, regardless of how much is based on truth. It's still a work of fiction. All right, I think I have enough dough for one more pumpkin, but I don't think I have enough room for one more pumpkin. So what we're gonna do instead is a couple of like little cookies. I'm just gonna place a couple little cookies around here and see what happens. This might totally ruin my whole thing. No, you know what? We're gonna worry about it later because now I have too much. Okay, so I just checked on the cookies that are in the oven. These shapes are not holding. They are just spreading out into giant cookie globs. So I think we're gonna unfortunately abandon this idea and just make them into little round shapes. My poor dough is really getting beat up this time around. But I did take a look at the Last Supper picture. I couldn't help it, like I had to. I paused my reading and Googled it. I guess you could say that it's a woman next to Jesus. It's difficult because I just sort of feel like men had long hair and a lot of people wore very similar fashions. Apparently, I'm not a historian by any means, but just like that's what it seems like from a lot of the paintings and stuff from then. So there is a part of me that sort of feels like, yeah, it could be a woman, could also be a guy. I mean, also too, there's definitely room for another woman in the picture. Like if you believe that the person sitting next to Jesus is Mary Magdalene and therefore a woman, there is definitely somebody else in the picture, and I don't remember where they're sitting. There's definitely somebody else in the picture that looks to me like it could be a woman, if that's what we're going off of. So then that still sort of changes the whole thing. So that's why it's one of those things where it's like, don't take this so seriously, you know, because it's really up to people's interpretation. Yeah, if you believe that's a woman, you could spin this whole story about how it's Mary Magdalene at the right hand of Jesus. But if you don't believe that's a woman, then your whole point is gone. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do really quick is get some icing so that we can decorate some of these. I'm sure you can already see these cookies, but I will show you up close in a second. Kind of trying to let them cool off a little bit more. They are huge. They're just like giant blobs of cookie. There's one that vaguely resembles a pumpkin. It's still at least got a little bit of a stem. And then there was one that totally fell apart while I was trying to take it off of the tray. So, you know, we're kind of in both worlds right now. But I want to try to mix up some icing to see if we can decorate. I've got like a yellow and I think some red. So I'm gonna see if I can get orange. I will say, I mean, the Disney stuff that they started talking about how like Disney always added in certain things to his movies, especially like the posters and stuff, I thought was really interesting. Like it was really cool to read about that as, you know, a Disney generation child. I mean, I don't know if a lot of it is like super true or anything, but I do know that, you know, a lot of the stuff that they mentioned, I didn't write anything down specifically, but some of the stuff they mentioned, I was like, oh yeah, that totally is like on the poster or in the film or whatever. So I just thought it was pretty cool because, you know, it's like, okay, well, this is another moment where you get to, I guess, have like a moment of conspiracy and be really deep into the conspiracy, which, like I said, is fun for me. I mean, when the book's over, you know, and that's the end of the story. But I think it's fun to be involved in the conspiracy at the moment. Trying to decide if I like this color for the icing or not. I think I do. I don't think I need it to be like a dark orange. I mean, we're not doing anything fancy here, that's for sure. I just wish I could totally, okay, here we go. See, this is my one that looks the most like a pumpkin. The rest is just like, wow. But hey, at least they taste good. That's good, right? All right, our second batch came out. They're much more cookie shaped. Not really sure what we're gonna do about that, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I have to decorate this giant cookie, I think. Like, I just have to. I feel like I picked a bad thing to make because I have so much more still to talk about in this book, and I'm trying to figure out, like, how best to go about it. Honestly, I find Fesh, I don't know, the captain, find him to be such a dick. Like, I just think he's so prideful, and I know that eventually he stops being prideful and starts, like, actually doing the right thing, but for a while, he's not. And for a while, he's like a huge major dick, in my opinion. Unnecessarily. I feel like poor Colette's the only one thinking. Like, he's the only one that's actually thinking about the whole picture instead of just the simple answer, which was that Robert was responsible for this. So, like, he's the only one being like, okay, but some of these pieces don't add up. Shouldn't we maybe explore that a little bit? Like, this poor guy is the only one that really seems to know anything. They lost me a little bit with the cipher. Don't remember what part of that was exactly. I think with like the cipher to the answers of everything, they definitely lost me a little bit. That's the only thing about these books that's difficult for me, is like I'm not into art history really. I'm not into like conspiracy theories or these like hidden parts of history or whatever. So sometimes it's difficult because I get a little lost in the lingo of it all. I think for the most part, the author does a really nice job of making sure that doesn't happen, but I do think sometimes it's like, okay, this is a little bit much. I also think that as much as I enjoyed this book, Angels and Demons is definitely more exciting. I think that's really what it was, is that even though this all happens in a relatively quick amount of time, just like Angels and Demons, it just felt like Angels and Demons, I don't know, just seemed like there was a lot more to it. Like, yes, a character running from the police because the police think that they've murdered somebody, like, yeah, that, I mean, you know, you're trying to be like, oh, don't get caught, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But I do kind of think, like, there's a huge difference between running for everybody's lives and trying to solve everything like they were doing in Angels and Demons. And so I think I still preferred that one, but I was grateful that this one was still entertaining. It was infuriating to me not to know who the teacher was. Like, not being able to know who the teacher was like, it just kept getting to me. I was like, I want to know. I need to know. And then it was like, it was kind of a surprise that Teabing was the teacher, just simply because, I don't know, like, I kept thinking, because I had seen the movie before, so I kept thinking, like, okay, pretty sure he is the teacher, and he, like, betrays them. But then, I don't know, it was like the more that we did this, the more I was like, okay, well, maybe not. Like, I don't know, like, I honestly just could not figure out what I believed and was having a really difficult time. And so, like, when it came out that it was him, I was just kind of like, well, yeah, okay, I guess, but, like, I don't know, you know? And then also, too, like, Landon always gets the girl. Langdon, Robert, he always gets the girl. I mean, you know, he just does. All right, if you left because of spoilers, go ahead and come back and join us. My attempts to make these into pumpkin shape totally derailed. For the most part, that first batch came out like this, where they were just a giant cookie. So we went back to original cookie shape, and we'll just do a little bit of decorating. I did decorate the only big cookie that came out looking more like a pumpkin. So here she is. This is my best attempt. Like I said, I don't have any royal icing, so I can't really make them nice and cute and all of that. We're just going with the most basic of icing at this point and just kind of rolling with it. Put a little ghost on that one. Okay, well, I feel like this icing is we're kind of done with this. I made a ghost, so I'm going to show you. Look, there's my little happy ghost. All right, I mean, these taste great. Sugar cookies are not that difficult to make. I would definitely say this was a success taste-wise. Sugar cookies are always a great option. Plus, they are fun to decorate. I mean, I'm not a big icing person, but if you love icing, it's fun to get to kind of decorate them in different little ways. I did just little dots. I just did those. I did some hearts. I did some swirls. Just some fun stuff. But unfortunately, the decorating part was a fail. Just, honestly, this icing is not great, but also, too, they didn't come out shaped like pumpkins, no matter how hard I tried. So, you just got regular cookie shapes. However, I have a sugar cookie recipe now, so when I do finally get some royal icing and the courage to bake with it, then I can start maybe making some of those really fun fancy cookies that people do. That could be super fun. If you have any other recipes that you want me to try, go ahead and send those my way. Always looking for new recipes. I have a really fun one planned for next week. I was going to do it this week, and then I read the instructions a little too late. So I decided to put that off till next week, but I have a fun one for next week. But I'm always looking for new recipes to try, so definitely feel free to send those my way. I highly recommend this book, especially if you've read Angels and Demons or any of the other Robert Langdon series and you really liked it. This is a really good one, too. It had a lot of twists and turns, a lot of really fun ventures into, like, art history and Christian history and things like that. Don't take it so seriously, Christians especially. Come on now. It's a work of fiction, but it's a really fun book, and I highly recommend it. I just got started on the next one the other day, I don't know, and I'm really excited about it. If you have any other book recommendations, feel free to throw those my way as well. You can also follow me on Instagram if you want to see my reading journey, because I always post what I'm currently reading, so if you like to keep up with me, you can do that as well. If you had fun today, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. I try to be here for you every week, and honestly, it is always kind of a little bit of a hot mess, but I'm getting better along the way. So, you know, it evens itself out in the end. Thank you to those of you that watch every week. You guys are the absolute best, and I truly, truly appreciate it, and I will see you guys next time.